this segment for the last 25 minutes is to have a discussion on strategic collaboration for entities, organizations, agencies, civil society, governmental. How can we develop from this point on a strategic plan of collaboration to actually address, if not all, but some of the pertinent needs that came out over the last day or two at this symposium, and so that this don't end up becoming an exercise in fertility. So what we want to do, and I'm glad, Chris, you are here. What I want to do is how do we set the groundwork? And what I will do is I will just give my 1 minute presentation on what I was going to as it relates to what we do here at LEAD. Let me bring this up. And I want to take it from the SAW analysis, actually, when we talk about, okay, let me open this up. Good. Now, basically, here's the problem, and I have addressed it from our perspective as an organization trying to fulfill the vision and the mission of our organization. And the original quotes came from Dr. Miles Monroe, and it formed the basis of our organization. The civility of a community is manifested in its treatment of the weak, frail, disenfranchised, disadvantaged, and poor among them. The maturity of a community is determined by its ability to rehabilitate those who have fallen short of its social expectations and fail in their responsibilities and accountability to that community. It is no secret that one of the greatest failures of modern society and our contemporary culture is our inability to effectively reintegrate and resocialize those who have paid their debt to society through the penal system. In fact, one of the saddest realities of our communities is the fact that most of those who have fulfilled their obligations to the penal system because of the poor or non-existent infrastructure for re-entry into civilian lives find themselves victims of recidivism. And they were the words coined by Dr. Miles Monroe, that we have lived this out year after year. And it is through our experience over the past 11 years, going on to 12 now, the Institute has to deal with countless individuals who, after being released from prison system, fell into depression and frustration due to the sense of abandonment they felt from society. Despite their desire to want to live a life of positive contribution to their families and society, they were in many cases unprepared to enter the job market or could not find employment, or those who were willing to embrace their past and give them a future. The greatest need in all of our communities throughout this region is an effective, quality, strong, and well-staffed program to assist these individuals in their reentry process. And how LEAD basically look at solving this dilemma we see here in the Bahamas and throughout the Caribbean is to conduct a SAW analysis: strength, aspirations, opportunities, and results. We know that we have timely delivery of evidence-based, excuse me, research-driven services, and we are a certified organization. We have a record of successful outcomes. Our aspiration opportunities is basically we have local and international implementation of programs. We assume leadership role in many areas, and we try to take a strategic, collaborative approach in the work we do. Our aspirations is to become 85% self-sufficient, acquire own land and facility, grow fees and revenue, and the results is to create step-by-step plan, create sustainability through funding, reduce crime and recidivism. And I say all of this to say what Chris has shared has given us a reset of what needs to be done from an organizational standpoint, not alone, but to collaborate with other stakeholders to see this come to a reality. That being said, also what we have learned is that the criminal justice system, from your perspective, Chris, is that is only a small segment of the wider system that we face to create a safer, peaceful, and productive society. So that being said, what else is needed to be put in place from what you would have said, what I'm saying now, and what the two other speakers will bring to the table? I will put a pause on that before you answer that so that Diallo can present, and then Dr. Hamilton, and then we open.
Okay, great. So good afternoon once again to everyone. My perspective is just about understanding how do we effectively put together strategies and invoke a spirit of togetherness as we start to move ahead and do some of the things that we speak about. Because I think when we look at what the opportunities that we have, how do we effectively start to chart the course to make certain that these things actually happen? We have a lot of people who are subject matter experts and who are committed to their field and to their craft. So it's just a matter of how do we start now to basically inculcate this into systems where we can actually start to see measured results and actually strategies that can actually put in place that can be replicated, I mean, in any stratosphere. And so I guess my thing is that I've always had a passion and desire for mentorship and also bringing different people involved. I had a one of my first bosses from South Africa, and he always used to preach to us, find subject matter experts. Once you find a subject matter expert, you may pay a premium for their resources, but you're finding someone who is knowledgeable. He's not fumbling with this idea or concept, and so you bring them into the greater sphere. And so now we actually start to invoke that spirit of togetherness. And I think that is essential because a lot of times there's an article in the Harvard Business Review this month that speaks to what they call it co-opetition. And what that speaks to is that a lot of times agencies and industries during difficult times have to come together, to partner together, even though they may have seemed to be in competition. They are not, because they're now cooperating to do some things. And so this is actually the spirit that we have to come in alignment with to make sure that we can actually see some type of meaningful progress, because there's no sense coming together with all these great minds and not being able to bring something into fruition. My favorite word is manifestation. You got to manifest something. And so, we got yourself, Mr. Clarke, and we got so many other folks who are subject matter experts. And so we bring this together now to infuse this now into our systems. And so a few years from now, we should see great results based on the same platform where we are now.
Dr. Hamilton?
Good afternoon, Mr. Clarke. Good afternoon to all. Indeed, it's a privilege again to join with you. I need to apologize for not being able to participate further in the activities following my representation earlier yesterday morning, but glad to be here. What I'd like to do here is begin my contribution. It's going to be brief by tagging it with this: vision to legacy, taking responsibility, knowing the end from the beginning. I'm saying this as vision is very critical in this process, and the whole notion of this particular exercise being done over these past 2 days would be the fact that vision is present. Not only that the vision is present, but now each of us being exposed to the content shared over the past 2 days would position each of us to take responsibility. And as we have heard over the course of the 2 days, and just hearing my brother make his contribution ahead of me, we recognize that we have an idea where we want to end. You know where you want to go to. We want to see change take place. We want to see transformation take place. And particularly in light of the Dorian and COVID-19 experiences, it demands that we acknowledge that it is time to break out of the silos. Silos have their place in that, with respect to the silos, it allows you to incubate, clean up your act and perfect things before you actually make the representation. So it has a healthy connotation and healthy environment to produce quality. And when we think of that, I'd like to draw reference to the body in particular as a prime example of this. With all the organs functioning properly, it allows you to be able to be in control of yourself as an individual to make the best delivery for the gifts, the talents, the skills, and everything that you embody. And it's similar with regard to everything else that we deal with. Having said that, I move to the fact that there's a three-pronged approach I'd like to emphasize here, and that is the cry, the call, and the response. It's dealing with acknowledgement of need it's either by force or it's voluntary. Secondly, acknowledgement of both leadership and followership, because that is critically necessary. Further, the critical importance of individuals as valued assets and investors for national investments. People are at the heart of this whole thing that we're dealing with. No matter which side of the fence we find them on, the fact is they're valuable, they're important, and they can make contributions. And this is a very serious thing for us. We have to take responsibility. This is not a blame game situation. None of us are perfect, but when we work together, we can complement and augment deficiencies or failures on the part of the others. But when we do it together, we begin to eliminate those various challenges, deficiencies, and all the likes, all the negatives. We can then focus properly, and we channel our energies to be able to dispense of those negatives and bring a better, healthy environment for all of us to function in. As we say, move further, acknowledgement of influence and relationships with individuals, families immediate and extended, our nations, the regions that we find ourselves in, and the world at large. This is capsuled better in the tripart governance system approach. We'd have been talking about many, many things during the course of these days, but in reality, it boils down to the fact that we're talking about a governance system, whether it be individual governance, that's self-governance, or we're talking collective, national, international governance, but it's speaking to order. And so when we look at this, we recognize that the citizenry and residents of our respective nations need to be acknowledged, the business community of our respective nations likewise, and the governmental systems of our respective nations. And when we speak to the regional aspect of this, we begin to combine these. So we have, when we began our sharing yesterday, we spoke specifically to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas as a silo. And as I indicated earlier with regard to the body, as an example, we have 700 islands, rocks, and keys that embody the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But each of those islands, rocks, and keys are different. Likewise, the citizenry and residents that occupy those islands, rocks, and keys which are inhabited, they're different. But when we bring them all together, it's a grand opportunity for us to demonstrate true quality and generate things that would produce positive results with regard to our nation. And as we spend this time together in collaboration and moving towards formulating a plan, it is very important to walk into the process of vision, mission, manifestation, and legacy. And I'll put that another way, speaking to leadership, followership, stewardship, and ownership. Again, emphasizing that we all need to take responsibility because every one of us has something or some things that we can contribute to this entire process. but we need to have the proper forums, such as a forum of this nature, to allow persons to be able to express themselves, be exposed to various opportunities, and be challenged to embrace it. I'd like to say this in concluding these brief remarks, that recently the concept of the three sins of failure and the three blessings of good success, I need to share that here as I conclude this. And it's speaking specifically to, in the failure column, we're speaking about selfishness, we're speaking about unfairness, and we're speaking about injustices. On the flip side, we are speaking about selflessness, fairness, and justice. In a very balanced system, we want to approach this as a means of rectifying those things that are out of order, those things that are in error, and cause it to be aligned. Representing that in another way, in a very broad sense, would be for failure, we consider the fact that the selfishness, the injustices, and the unfairness is a very bad mix, because none of us benefit from it. What you foster is an environment of corruption, conspiracy, and cultural contamination. And what we'd like to move to, on the flip side of that, is purity, integrity, and cultural excellence. I trust these remarks would help us along the way as we look to work further collectively to bring to bear positive results in the best interest of not only our individual nations, our individual communities, our individual homes, and ourselves as individuals in terms of the development as a result of these things being shared today, and forging relationships of quality and extreme value as we move forward. And I think I'll end that initial contribution so we can spark further discussion and sharing. Thank you, Mr. Clarke.
Again, thank you very much, Dr. Hamilton. And to start off this conversation, I would want to put this question to Christopher Chinapoo. You talk about system thinkers. You talk about systems, everything operate inside of systems. And I know Diallo is an IT person himself, so he understands systems as well. My question to you, Chris, is how do we become effective instead of breaking down and trying to rebuild the system? We say the system is failing us. We always have this terminology, the system has failed us or the system is failing us. And so if we're not going to break down, what is it we are going to do to become more effective, knowing that our area of work and expertise is in a small arena of the bigger picture?
Well, I would suggest, Troy, and I want to keep it in the context of what Dr. Hamilton said. Again, to me, it goes back to framing your aim. And in terms of, well, he had framed it in terms of a vision and a mission. But we just need to be clear on our aim and raise the awareness. Continue to raise the awareness of systems. What happened is that everyone is a system thinker. You know, I tend to like come out of this whole elitism to say, well, oh, Christian is a system thinker and Troy is a system thinker and someone else isn't. We just have not transferred that system thinking, because you know, when you're actually going to do something for your home, you just think about the impacts and how when you go into the grocery, you just think, you just make a list, you know, quite often. Well, those who are like organized, so people typically think in systems so that they don't go to the grocery and come back and move in these inefficient ways, right? But we also have to recognize too that the greatest amount of efficiency also does not necessarily bring effectiveness. So we had to really engage in this process, like as part of a ongoing evolution, that one, the system will never be like fully optimized up front, and that it will be we have to continue working on it. So I actually, in terms of my thoughts, I actually put down like 7 key things that I think that we really need to do. In terms of one, defining your aim. And again, to me, a lot of that aim rests in terms of the multilateralism that is already out there with the SDGs. the Paris Agreement and the Sendai Framework in disaster risk reduction. Why I say that too, because I think that it presents additional opportunities to the correction sector and other sectors to actually get funding that informs this sort of work. Leadership, when I frame leadership here, quite often a lot of us think about the managers of our society as the leaders, but leadership exists everywhere within the society and within organizations. And we got to create, like Dr. Monroe used to talk, we got to create platforms for those leaders to develop. All right. And it really comes back to us, that self-responsibility, taking that stewardship at the helm. So we need to actually take ownership over the issues, recognizing that these issues are not a spectator sport, and continue to engage the managers of our societies and the communities in relation to these particular issues, helping to frame that conversation, recognizing that everyone is important, rather than the continued cut the leg off, recognizing that, wait now, if we get this leg to actually function properly, it will be able to run and we will actually be able to harness our full human capital and potential. Advocacy, I think, is continual. We need to continue to do advocacy. Of course, we need to look into recognizing too that we had a good gender balance on all these panels. But in terms of the issues, a lot of the issues kind of lean towards male. You need to recognize too the need to engage the women and the youth as part of our aim and our intervention. Partnerships is also key. I really believe that it is the platform. So as we talk about, we just need to continue to work on developing those partnerships between academia, business, government. And we have to recognize too that we don't need the government to lead. We actually, the civil society, can take the management role and come to the fore and recognize too that there's a lot of international funding, there's a lot of international opportunities that are available. Nationally, there are also opportunities. So we need to find ways in terms of identifying those opportunities, mobilizing the right people and resources to connect our clients with these opportunities and resources and people. We need to harmonize our efforts. We recognize that I'm sure that in Bahamas we have the lead, and I'm sure that we have a lot of other NGOs and civil societies doing great work. The more we can actually harmonize those efforts, I mean, we saw the Ubuntu, the more we can try to harmonize our efforts and actually work together, we need to come out of our own heads and our own narratives and actually put the metal to the wheel and actually start to apply our learning, document what we are doing in terms of our learning, and start to recognize the benefits and the results, the impact that our learning is actually having, so that then we can actually make representation in more refined ways to government and so on, because we need to have government also at the table. We want to take this rule to bring all of these parties moving in the direction that we need to go. Guys, 5, looking at now capacity building. Now, forums like these, Troy, I would suggest that you continue to have them, continue to engage the youth, continue to engage women, continue to engage on all the issues related to the SDGs, because you realize that all SDG issues speak to issues affecting youth in conflict with the law, affecting the offender population, affecting people, and affect the causative issues that lead to crime in the long run, that deals with, as Dr. Hamilton mentioned, the injustice, the selfishness, and those type of things, because we can actually target those issues. There are ways and means to actually intervene in those issues, as you would know in terms of evidence-based practices. again, I think it was the speaker before me, uh, Officer Hamilton, was it, who mentioned the under-resourcing of these issues. We
Awesome.
need to really make it, bring everyone to be more aware of how important it is to properly resource these particular issues. And like I said, I will actually make myself available to you, Troy, also in terms of providing that type of advocacy to international organizations in attracting the type of resources that we need. And the last point that I'm going to make, number 7, has to do with expand the collaboration. Expand the collaboration in terms of both the government, academic, um, civil society organizations who are doing work within the area, expand that collaboration to the local, the regional, use your project reentry, your Caribbean project reentry to broaden the conversation around the region and engage also with the CARICOM, the PFI. Prison Fellowship International is probably one of the most underutilized forum within the region, right? You have the local. I think I'm seeing David is on the line there. So you have your local PFI, you have a regional PFI. These are networks that can help you to actually extend your outreach and extend our outreach, I should say, not your.
Right.
Probably I need to change my language too. See, this is why you see when I talk about systems too, we had to recognize too that we have to also continually engage our thinking in terms of reframing to move towards the we, because we have all been cultured into non-cooperation, to striving to get the gold medal at the detriment of everyone else. So in terms of collaboration, it is something that that is a cultural transformation that we have to actually actively engage in terms of our minds. So it's something that we have to continually stick with and be a part of. And those are my 7 points: the aim, leadership, advocacy, partnerships, harmonization and alignment, capacity building, and continued collaboration.
Okay, good. This next question is for you, Mr. Ingram, Diallo. How do we move? How do we move? I know you talk about the fruit, the root as such, and it reminded me of Dr. Miles. So obviously talk about the root, the shoot, the fruit. But how do we move from the me thing to the we thing with limited resources from your perspective?
Well, I guess my thing is, Mr. Clarke, I look at resources as being like almost like a byproduct of something. It's not really, the crux of it. And I think that I have actually proven on more than one occasion, when you come to the table with ideas and concepts and different things, people would be a little bit skeptical at first, and even the business community, they always want to be a part of something successful. So it may mean that if you're going to launch out, you may have to launch out with either some of your own resources or actually launch out launch out on faith. Because I've lived this. I mean, with Man Up, with Manifestation Mondays, I lived this. So what you start to do is don't make the opportunity of not having resources the big problem. Just as well as I do, Troy. Dr. Miles used to say, if you feel as though you're talented and gifted enough, give it away. Somebody eventually will pay for it. So a lot of times we have to start on the premise of understanding that we got to, once we have an idea or we feel as though we have birthed something out. Once you birth that out, then you move to actually start to actually invoke this energy surrounding it. So if you feel as though what you're doing is going to impact the next generation, I started out with a goal about 10, 12, 13 years ago. And as a matter of fact, I think Facebook had reminded me of it by sending back those things. And so I said that I guess and encapsulated that I want to help to liberate some of my people. That was 12, 13 years ago. And so once you start to actually speak these things, you start to walk in these things, then people with the resources will actually come. Or what will happen also, or you will find out that you generate that much money that you fund your own programs. And so that's like one of the best things. Even us at the church, people always ask us like, how do you do these things? I say, well, Jesus never went and at a cookout. I'm not saying I'm not knocking cookouts. I'm not knocking. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it. But what I'm saying is, when you become a principle-based person, you actually start to walk in those principles. If you believe whatever man sow, that also shall he reap, you start to sow good seeds and start to actually put these things in the atmosphere. And then trust me, someone will come along and say to you, hey, you're doing this program. Hey, how can I help? I've had this happen to me on many occasions. So I'm not speaking about something in abstract. And so a lot of times people talk about these programs, these ideas, but in actuality, they don't have a strong enough conviction to actually follow them through. Because if you got a conviction that actually was birthed in you by something greater than you, you can't help but to carry this out, even if you're not getting paid.
Right.
So a lot of times it's just because you are in a rut of thinking like, I need somebody to come and support me. No, what you need to do is get up, put your program together, and get the program out there. People will love to be a part of successful ideas and concepts. People are very skeptical at first, but if you're going to invoke change, we got to understand that resources will come, but what the premium is on is ideas and passion. You can always find money. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but you can always find money. What you can't find and buy is passion, ideas, and passion and good ideas. They are premium for those things. So it's just a matter of bringing it together and identifying that you got to launch out. And once you launch out, then the energy of what you're doing will actually attract and draw people. You can't imagine how much times I found people I was doing a renovation project in Eleuthera some years ago. And a friend of mine heard what I was doing. He said, man, hold on, I'll buy the windows for it. It happens, but I first had to start it. And then by virtue of people hearing you're doing it, they'll be like, that's what you're doing, man. Hey, I got some money towards this. Money, billions of dollars all about. Just that we got to have enough forthwithness to go ahead and invoke what we got inside of us to start to attract this money. I always tell my people who work with me, money is a byproduct of what I do. You start to attract money.
Curious how the SDGs that impact on
Somebody's mic is open, Troy.
already working on sustainable development in terms of investing.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's the crux of it. Stop. Sometimes we have to be reminded that we cannot put our shortfalls and our shortcomings as at the forefront of what we're trying to do. If the program is meaningful enough, if the idea is mean enough, we collaborate. We have intelligent minds even now. We collaborate now. We got ideas now. Throw the ideas together. Come together with a plan that's attainable and actually a goal that's reachable, and start to actually walk towards this. I told a guy some years ago. He was saying that he wanted to put a program in the schools, and he felt as though the Ministry of Education wouldn't support it. I said, who cares? I said, well, do it on a Saturday. He said, but if I do it on a Saturday, well, that's only one or 2 hours out the week. Well, start there. You know what I mean? Like, they don't. If you weren't looking for the perfect opportunity, you may never launch anything in your life. So start where you are, start where you're at, and actually identify what needs to be done. And if it's meaningful enough, trust me, the money will come. That's and if it doesn't come, well, call me and we'll figure out how to get the money.
Okay, awesome. Dr. Hamilton, you wanted to share on this slide here?
Yes, Mr. Clarke. What I thought to do is such an interesting chemistry that's coming forward even as the sharing takes place. But even with that chemistry, understanding that various parties are contributing to the chemistry that's actually unfolding. And I guess undergirding this whole process to be sacrificed. But I asked, with regard to this diagram, when we think of the balance of our society and understanding that, I refer to this particular chart as the 2 bites of the cherry. The heart of this being the people. Is always about the people, always about the people. Now we can acknowledge that or we can dismiss it, but the fact is, it is always about the people. And what we're speaking to with this is the fact that when you consider the socioeconomic and the political construct of this whole process, we'd understand that it begins and it ends with the people. In the heart of this, we have the people generally that come together as they are actually voters. All right, the citizenry and residents as voters, but they're also taxpayers, because the salient ingredient of 3 primary things and I refer to them as primary resources: time, money, and relationships. And those are components that we invest with. And these past 2 days, that's what's been happening. Time has been invested, money has been invested, relationships have been invested. Now you want to look on the back end. So the next step of this is actually, what are we going to do behind this? And I'm ready to say that go into number 2. All right? Move from this to number 2, but in preparing to go to number 2, capturing those ideas has been referenced and developing a plan so that strategically we can engage it and move forward. Back to this diagram, the middle section of this is your money section, speaking of the business community with trade and industry. They are taxpayers, but they're also voters. We're talking a synergy here. Then we move to the outer orange circle, speaking to the government and all its agencies. The government is your tax collector and has the responsibility to dispense of the taxes in the best interests of the citizenry and the residents of the nation. This applies to all of us across the world. But then on the outskirts, we're back to the people, the NGOs and the CSOs, and we have it classically demonstrated even now as we walk through the COVID experience. And for our nation, both the Dorian and the COVID experience intermingled. We recognize that NGOs really played a strategic and critical role in where we are today. As a matter of fact, still playing that role, because when we think of the feeding situation in our nation, NGOs have been tasked with that responsibility, even with the agreement of the government to contribute towards that end and give them the leadership to carry forward. So I just thought I'd pull the diagram up to re-emphasize that, because what you also have is specialization in the respective CSOs by sector. Right. Because what we're doing here is speaking to the body again. We are cell by cell. We realize that we need to nourish right at the root, right at the heart of this thing. So the healthiness of our cells, in order the whole system of our functions, as far as the body is concerned, to be at its optimum when we take care of it. And so I walked through the process of we plan, we organize, we implement, but we must evaluate. And I think we've fallen short in a lot of instances where we have not been adequately evaluating the planning, the organizing, and the implementation of the various systems as far as our respective societies are concerned. And this I would like to represent as a starting place to appreciate the fact that we need these 3 particular segments working together. We introduce it by the voting process of electing our officials. And this is by no means to put any unnecessary burden on the government, because the government is nothing without us. And that's the point I want to bring home here. We elect them, put them to office, but we also have to work with them as a means of them achieving the things necessary in the best interest of the citizenry. So that's the import of that. And another thing I'd like to say here too, aim was made mention of. It's important that the vision is captured and documented so that it can properly be articulated. And that's the role of the leadership. And the leadership comes from various levels, various sectors, various spheres of our society. But also following the leadership is the followership. And that's speaking to those persons that would have an appreciation for the vision that's been crafted, and they would take ownership of it. They would take ownership of it and begin to execute. And the quality of this is going to be that when the leaders would share the vision and the followership embrace the vision and begin to work it, they will come back to leadership and validate that they've executed the respective vision. And it moves further because now we're going to see manifestation as a result of that. And in the manifestation, it actually empowers stewardship. That's what really happens when the people are actually properly led and given an opportunity to participate. They turn out to be excellent stewards. And not only is the stewardship exemplified, but they move to the point of truly carrying through ownership, which is your legacy. The legacy of us doing things in excellence, as we refer to failures and good success. We've made many mistakes. All of us have made many mistakes. As a nation, we've made some mistakes. But the reality of it is we need to be recovering. And this is the part of the process. The very dialogue that we've been engaged over the past 2 days is a part of that contribution to help us to correct those mistakes and to be able to move forward with greater confidence, greater intensity in terms of purpose to rectify those challenges that we've been experiencing in society. And it takes us to take responsibility for this one by one as individuals, family by family, and community by community, nation by nation, region by region, so that we can influence the world for betterment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hamilton. Dr. Hamilton, you open us up with breaking out of silos. You said the groundwork, and I would let us close on those words of wisdom that you just finished sharing with us. And the way forward now will be to actually do as three of you suggested in documenting exactly what transpired here today and put together a plan to move forward. And it is our intent to continue forums of this nature so that we can have a collaborative effect from other stakeholders and widen the conversation so that everybody can play a role. And I like how I think Chris stated that we don't have to wait for government to do anything because we, the people, are the government. So if we can actually strategize and strategically put forward the plans and execute it in a systematic way, then I think we will have a tremendous impact utilizing CSO in the forefront and other entities following behind. And I think we would have been able to meet our vision and mission of our respective organizations and entities. And that being said, let me say thank you to all of our presenters, Dr. Hamilton, Chris Chinapoo from out of Jamaica, Diallo, Ingraham from out of Tappan Bay, Lutheran. We have Michelle Lundy out of Freeport, Grand Bahama. We have Jana Christie from Freeport, Grand Bahama now. We have Sergeant Thompson from Grand Bahama. We had Dr. King. Dr. King spoke to us all the way from the snowy Ohio. She was from the USA. She's Bahamian, but she live and work in the USA. And then we had Senior Lieutenant Bullard, Elvis Bullard from Coral Harbor Base in Nassau, Bahamas. And we had Ian Mora from Program Shore, Nassau, Bahamas. And I hope I didn't leave anybody else out there. And so I want to say thank you to all of the participants from Social Services, Ministry of Education, Immigration, Department of Rehab and Welfare Services, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Royal Bahamas Defense Force, Bahamas Department of Correctional Services. We had Lillian Webers from Suriname. We had Anne-Marie from Trinidad and Tobago. We had persons from Antigua and Barbuda. So we had a good representation from around the Caribbean.
Suriname, Suriname. I think I saw Guyana.
Yes. So we had a good representation. And I think, Chris, this is something although we're gonna take it from nationally, we can national and we can take regional because a lot of us experience basically the same kind of challenges and so forth because we are people of this diaspora. So we face similar challenges. And I think the solutions lies within us. And we just have to have the know-it-all and the will to actually strategically implement the solutions. And like I said, I will not allow this to become an exercise in fertility, and I will see to it that change comes from this going forward. Once again, thank you for participating. Thank you for presenting, and have a wonderful evening and continue to enjoy your week. If there is any more comments, anybody else want to comment, feel free to comment before we shut down.
So Clarke, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you and your team for an excellent initiative and the sacrificial exercise given to this the results that we're experiencing even today, and anticipating those future results that all of us would be proud of. Thank you again.
You're welcome.
Mr. Clarke,
Yes, sir.
good afternoon, sir. I just want to thank you, sir, for such an informative seminar. The information was very helpful. And I want to say, sir, on behalf of Commander of the Defense Force and the entire Defense Force leadership team, sir, we are always grateful for such knowledge and empowerment that can help us to do of better, value to our persons and helping our persons to cope in the midst of all that is happening now in the country, sir. Thank you very much. And I must say again, too, sir, thanks for all the panelists and the guests who shared their information, sir. It was very, very informative. And I really look forward to joining you very soon again, sir, in these type of sessions. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone. May everybody have a wonderful day.
And please, Senior, carry my sentiments back to Commodore Dr. Raymond King. Thank him for allowing you to participate and your staff to participate in this forum over the last 2 days. He has been very supportive ever since he has arrived at the chair. So just give him our gratitude, and we will collaborate more on issues like this, because after this has made me to think, and I think Chris might have mentioned something to that sort, but a lot of issues are men related and men contributed. So I think probably in April, I am partnering with another organization to actually have a men forum, and I want to have it as a Caribbean thing, but I'm gonna reach out to Chris, reach out to Diallo to see how best we can make this effective and bring a larger variety. And definitely I will reach out to my president of civil society, definitely, because he takes the lead in civil CSOs in the Bahamas. So definitely something on man issues sometime in April of this year. So you'll be hearing from me in that regards.
I look forward, sir, to that participation. Like I indicated, Commodore King, sir, he's take welfare very serious among the officers in the Marines and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. And I know that type of information, we definitely be informed, sir, and be able to participate in such forums. Thank you again very much, sir.
Good. And in the chat group, we had programs were informed from Frederica King. Programs were informative, educational. Let us seek to make a unified effort. I just lost that. Someone just type in out. Okay, let us take a unified effort. I lost that just now. Nevertheless, anyway, good. Okay, thank you from Lillian and Suriname. Thanks to all presenters and grants. Great thanks to Troy. Thank you, Lillian, for participating. And Chris, we can reach out to Reverend Brian Skinner on the men issues. Good. Dwayne, thanks for the presentation, very useful. Right back to Mrs. King. Education, let us seek to make a unified effort to be the change we need to have. Good. And Katie Gardner from Department of Rehabilitative and Welfare Services. Thank you very much for the presentation, very informative. Ellen Jordan, many thanks. Ellen Jordan from Suriname as well. So we got Suriname in the house. And so, we're gonna, and also I wanna put you guys on notice, Lead Institute has not had its Caribbean Correctional Training Conference. And so we're planning to redo the Caribbean Correctional Training. We wanna have it hybrid, and that we plan to have it sometime in October. I'm considering having sometime in October Caribbean Correctional Training and Drug Demand Conference in October, and we'll have it hybrid for persons who can't travel. They'll be able to participate virtually, and we'll have persons on the ground. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna have it in Grand Bahama in person or in Nassau in person, but I will reach out to the US Embassy. So I'm hoping that in the fall things wear off, whereas the vaccines are out in the US, the vaccines are out here in in the Bahamas. And so we will be able to have some form of a blended arrangement so that we can have a major conference. So I will get back to you all in our various groups about it. Okay.